Hey, sports fans, Coach Nick here, and welcome to BBallBreakdown and our podcast. I'm pleased to have Baxter Holmes on the show, who is an NBA writer who covers the Lakers for ESPN.com. So, Baxter, thanks for waking up so early to hop on with us.
My pleasure. Glad to do it.
Well, let's talk right about the Lakers right off the bat and about their top five pick, because obviously the whole season's been focused on, I guess, keeping that pick. Certainly there's a lot of great players coming out of college this year. So tell us a little bit about how that's going to shake out and what their odds are of them keeping it.
So at the moment right now, the Lakers they're in the position for having the league's fourth worst record. If they maintain that, they've been about an 83% chance of keeping that pick. Obviously, it's a top five protected pick. If it falls outside the first five picks, then goes now to Philadelphia. The pick was originally part of that Steve Nash deal with Phoenix. But the interesting part, I guess, is that the Lakers are kind of teetering that line between having the league's fourth worst record and the fifth worst record, which is currently a spot owned by Orlando. If the Lakers fall to the fifth, the odds of keeping that pick fall from 83% to 55%. And let's just be honest, if the Lakers' entire season and this is the worst season in franchise history, they're one loss away from tying their most that they've ever recorded, which incidentally they recorded last year. If that all happens and they don't have a top five pick, a promising young talent, maybe one of the guys from Kentucky or something like that, or Jahlil Okafor out of Duke to show for it, it is kind of a season that's gone for naught, and that would be something that's, pretty catastrophic by any measure.
For sure. Now let's look at this for a second, because in theory, while if they have the fourth slot, they have that 80% chance of getting it, but they also, in theory, they could move up too, right? There's a small chance that could happen.
Yeah. The percentages also go the other way. There is, I think, right now it's somewhere in the teens of them being able to move up and acquire one of the, very top picks. So it'll be interesting to see how the ping pong balls shake out. I believe it's May 19th, and what position necessarily the Lakers will be in, if they'll fall, or if they'll obviously have a chance to rise and name one of the players, maybe Karl Anthony Towns, something like that. But right now, with 8 games remaining, and considering how close the standings are, kind of at the bottom of the league, it's pretty imperative that the Lakers lose. I mean, they already had 2. It's weird to call them costly wins, but that happened when they beat the Philadelphia 76ers these past couple of weeks. Had they not beaten them, then perhaps they could have been in the position for third right now. Mm-hmm. But now they're in fourth, in the danger of falling to fifth. And given that there's top five protection on that, that's not necessarily a great place to be.
Well, not to pee on the parade, but at least for the Laker fans, okay, if you get the pick, you keep it. It's in the top five this year. The only problem is that next year they're going to have to give it away, because I know it's still protected a little bit, but not as protected as it was this year. So It's not like this pick, is theirs. They have to give it away at some point.
At some point, yes, it's going to happen. I think the best thing they could hope for right now is, given this year, given that there's like some very quality big men at the top, that they could be able to nab one of those. And yeah, if they lose it down the line, that's fine. But given kind of the state of the franchise, if they could just be able to get something for it right now in the form of perhaps one of those top flight big men, I think that it would make it a little easier to give it up down the road.
Well, interestingly, if they were able to get, like Willie Cauley-Stein, I don't think Towns is going to fall. We'll see how that shakes out. But they get one of these good players. Randall's healthy.
Right.
Maybe, I guess Kobe is planning on coming back. Is that right?
Yeah, Kobe's planning to be back, but I'm not sure. This is a guy who has his past 3 seasons have all been cut short by injury. He's going to be 37. He's obviously got 1,000,000 miles on his legs. It's not sure what kind of state or form he can be in. He obviously is not going to be the Kobe of old, who they can just kind of count on and whatnot. So the summer's a big summer for them. Next summer is an even bigger summer for them, in terms of like what kind of pieces they can add. But coming into next season, the biggest things, obviously Randall being healthy. If they keep the top 5 pick, what kind of player they'll bring in, the development there, with him and Randall, assuming they keep Randall or not, depending on trades, things like that, how that shakes out. It'll be an interesting kind of development year, and it looks like it's going to be Kobe's kind of retirement year as he rides off into the sunset.
Well, from what you've heard, are they still banking on the idea of getting a big name free agent or two this summer?
Yeah, that is always the plan. I mean, you can kind of mark that in stone, and they I think they're estimated to have about 30 million in cap room, so they could go after at least one top guy, maybe, and a middle of the road guy after that. But it'll be hard, I think, a little bit in this current market. There's guys like Marc Gasol. I don't know. I have a hard time seeing him leaving Memphis. LaMarcus Aldridge, Portland, guys like that.
I think Kevin Love is available too, right?
Kevin Love, yeah, and there's always talk of him coming back home to Los Angeles. I'm interested to see how necessarily things play out in Cleveland. If they go win the title, is he content with that? Does he want to stay there? How does that play out? Obviously, there's been talk of going after Rajon Rondo, who's Kobe Bryant is a huge fan of. We'll see how the Goran Dragic situation plays out in Miami, although I have a hard time seeing him leave there. So, yes, they are, they're big game hunters. They don't just kind of, I wrote recently, they don't even just really swing for home runs. It's kind of a grand slam or nothing. I think last summer it was like LeBron, Carmelo, and Chris Bosh. So that is their plan this summer, absolutely.
So what part of the camp do you fall under in terms of the idea that Kobe Bryant is sort of a, free agents don't want to come and play with him?
I recognize that he still represents, well, I mean, if we just forget the money thing, and how much his salary kind of affects their cap, I think that his particularly aggressive style isn't for everyone. We saw Dwight leave as kind of an indicator of that. And we've seen other players who, we don't know necessarily who could have or could have come, but he doesn't necessarily have the warmest, friendliest style. But that's his style, and he's won 5 championships, and so that's the ends to him kind of justify the means. But I don't necessarily, him being that alpha dog, I don't think that certain players think that their position can kind of gel with that. And so, I mean, I know there's talk amongst people like, oh, that's not true. People don't want to play with him, things like that. His particular style isn't the friendliest to play with, and you can't. I mean, while it does get results in his eyes, and it has gotten results over the years with the Lakers, I mean, it comes at a cost to some degree.
Right. Well, we'll have to see. I'm under in that camp where I'm thinking that the Dwight Howard thing really sort of exposed to a lot of other NBA guys the idea that LA isn't necessarily the destination that it used to be. And that might last for a long time, or maybe, who knows? It might just last as long as Kobe is there, and then if he retires after next year, it becomes this wonderful place for Hollywood, and you can get a lot of endorsements. I'd imagine all the great things that would lure you in the weather. Yeah.
It's a very interesting question. These past 2 years, they had Pau Gasol walk away, take less money to go to Chicago. They had Dwight Howard walk away, take less money to go to Houston. They struck out this past summer on all their guys. They're kind of in this state. I mean, and look, that didn't happen. Nobody said no to the Lakers. Nobody walked away from the Lakers, especially to take less money to go elsewhere. I think they're franchises at a crossroads, and does it take Kobe being eventually gone for the slate to be clean and for free agents to feel like they can come in and be the face of the franchise, have the keys of the franchise? Is that, it's kind of, but it is interesting. It is because I think they're a little, these kinds of things I just mentioned, they didn't happen to the Lakers.
Right.
And there's also the question of, is Los Angeles still as big of a pull as maybe it used to be? Is the lure of the Lakers still as big as it used to be? You can make the argument right now that 3 of the biggest, markets teams, or not markets, but biggest teams or best franchises, you could say Oklahoma City, Cleveland, San Antonio. There's mitigating circumstances for each of those, but they aren't necessarily the sexiest places to live, aren't enormous TV markets. Other factors are involved. So, yeah, I mean, it'll be interesting to see in the coming years, particularly after Kobe's gone, if the Lakers are able to use kind of those advantages they've always used to pull in the kind of guys that they've always seemed to pull in.
Don't forget, sports fans, you can listen to the entire interview with Baxter Holmes on our website, iTunes, or Stitcher. So use the link on the screen or below in the description. I know I'm in.